Welcome to Real Estate Secrets Unlocked, the podcast that takes you inside the minds of the industry's top professionals, revealing their top secrets to success. I'm your host, Danielle Damianov. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, get ready to learn the latest trends, strategies, and secrets that will help you succeed. Join us as we go beyond the basics and explore what it takes to make it in the world of real estate. So buckle up and get ready for a wild ride. This is Real Estate Secrets Unlocked. Hey everybody, it's Danielle Damianov with Real Estate Secrets Unlocked, and I'm so excited to be here today with Angie and Jeremy Gillette of the Gillette Group, and really excited to talk to them. They're definitely a high producing team, but they're also a husband and wife team. So I'm excited to talk to them about, how they got started into the business, as well as how it's like working as a husband and wife team. And so let's get started. Let's jump right in. Thank you, first of all, so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I know you're busy. And so to take time out of your day, it really means a lot to me. But I know that
we're thrilled to be here as well.
What's that?
We're thrilled to be here as well.
Yes. Thank you, Danielle.
Okay, so let's get started. So Angie, let me ask you, how long have you been in real estate?
So I'm in 6 years now.
6 years. Okay.
Yes.
And so you've literally seen your business like double and triple and quadruple. I mean, you've had a lot of success in a short period of time. In fact, more success than some people who have spent like a lifetime in real estate have been in. So, and you're not from the Southwest Florida area. You relocated, right?
We relocated here from the Midwest about 10 years ago.
Okay. And so when you relocated, what were you doing?
So at that time, Jeremy was a traveling sales professional. So he was on the road. So I was a stay-at-home mom for many years. So I was on the PTO executive boards, and I was a tennis professional. So I was doing a little bit of tennis teaching on the side while my kids were at lessons and stuff. But that was pretty much it. I was managing the home and the kids.
So, wow. So, okay, 3 boys. You have 3 boys. So you're home managing the 3. What made you say one day, you know what? I think I want to get into real estate.
Yeah. So it's actually, it was a decision. So we had decided, Jeremy and I, we went on vacation. We went on where did we go? St. Croix.
Yeah.
And I'm a big reader. And he said, I want you to do me a favor, and I want you to read this book on real estate investing while we're on vacation. And then I want to talk about it.
And you should have seen how excited she was when that was my request.
Yes, that was not the types of books I was planning on reading on that vacation. But I said, all right, he'd been trying to get me to buy property, and I was just kind of not super open to it. I was a little closed-minded. I kind of grew up in the Midwest where you're grateful for what you have and blah, blah, blah. So I read the book, and I was very intrigued by the book. I don't even remember what the name of it was. Weekend Real Estate Investor or something, maybe.
So I don't either. And I
can't find the book, which is crazy.
To find it again. It was the craziest book. It was about a guy worked at Montgomery Ward, and every time he was promoted, he would be relocated, and then he would keep the house that he has, turn it into a rental. He would take his move allowance and buy another home. And after his 5th or 6th move, he was making more and investing in real estate than he did as a manager at Montgomery Ward. And so it's old, it's dated, but it became the sweet spot of our investing strategy, buying single family, 3-2s, 1,500 square feet. You attract a young family typically, and you might get them for 5 to 6 years, non-HOA, so the revenue is good. Anyways, if anyone knows what that book is, please let us know.
Yeah.
Please let us know, because it was a really good book, and it totally tapped into our life because we were relocated a lot with Jeremy's career. So that book got my wheels spinning on, oh my gosh, if only we had, kept the house in Missouri and kept the house in Peoria and kept the house in Massachusetts and kept the house in Peoria, like where would we be today? But it really was an impactful book, probably was just the right book at the right time. That opened my mind to saying, yeah, we need to start investing in real estate. And gosh, it sure makes sense for me just to get my license, because we're going to start, because we made a commitment. We're going to start buying property on that vacation. And then And we did. We bought our first property a couple months after that. But in the meantime, I started working towards getting my license because it just makes sense for me to be the one writing the offers. And then we take commission, put it into the house, and then rent it out. So that's kind of how I started. That's the reason I got my license. And then, you know how it works.
The rest is history.
Well, that's the history. Then, one friend said, hey, I'm really not liking my agent. Would you help me get a house? I said, sure, I would be honored. Then my mom and dad decided to buy a house. And then it just kind of, at that point, I'm like, I just jumped in.
So you got started. Well, and there's that old saying that when the student's ready, the teacher appears. So that book was actually the teacher. I mean, it was the right time. A lot of times things come into our lives and we're not ready yet. So that was definitely the right time. So you got started basically in real estate investing, and the goal wasn't to be a realtor. It was just to write your own contract so you could save the commission.
Yep.
Okay.
And more so
that's how it started.
Yeah, and more to reinvest the commission back into the property.
To reinvest it back.
Most of what we were looking at required, we weren't into fixing and flipping. We were long-term holding was our strategy. But they all required some renovation, at least at the price point that we were looking at. And this was a huge catalyst, or at least accelerator to help us make those properties more attractive.
Right. So then there had to have been a time when you said, you know what, this is actually a career move for me, because in order to have the success that you have today, you can't just, take it as it comes. You have to start looking at real estate as a career and putting things in place. So what was that turning point for you where you said, you know what, I need to really start to treat this like a business instead of just the one writing the contracts on my own investments?
Yeah, I mean, that actually happened quickly for me, I think because of my personality type. So that first friend that I helped, it was pretty much my first transaction, which is scary. Working with somebody's largest investment that they make.
Yeah.
And I think I realized right away, like, this is not something that should be done part-time. This is serious. Like, this is a lot of people, whether it's a second home, a first home, it doesn't matter. Like, it's a big investment. And for my personality type, I had to just go all in because I'm like, I'm just going to do this, and I'm going to do it full time, and I'm going to take it seriously, and I'm going to turn it into a business. So literally when I say, once that happened, I decided to jump. I mean, I dove in. I had a coach at that point, then I hired a real estate coach within, probably a month. I got my own CRM, and I just started.
So would you say coaching, obviously in the beginning, starting out, is one of the things that, helped you tremendously to get to where you are today, or to get to where, you kind of know what you're doing? Because it's hard trying to figure out, what am I supposed to do? What is a CRM? What goes into the CRM and that type of stuff?
Yeah, 100%. And I'm a proponent of coaching for so many reasons. As an athlete my whole life, I've always had coaches. I don't think it should be any difference in business and in life. Hindsight is 2020, right? So, and this is, something that we talking about today, but I would do it different. If I went back, I would join a team.
Okay.
I would join a team that provides coaching, I feel like that is a faster ramp. And I think because I went it alone, granted I had a coach, but I still think that you ramp up a lot faster if you are surrounded by people who are successful and already have the processes in place. There's no reason to start from scratch. Exactly. And I didn't. I hired a coach, so I wasn't starting from scratch, but it still, was a lot of work.
Right.
But I just want to throw in too, because I think Angie's very humble. Danielle's obviously, you're a big partner of ours, us each pretty well. Two things I took from that is, one, and this is kind of a pet peeve of mine, but you heard, and I think you see why Angie is so successful. She was like, oh my gosh, how do I support this customer? They're buying this house. It wasn't her full-time job, and she dove in to learn it exceptionally well. I hear all the time the new agents, whether it be in our office, whether it be in other brokerages, that say, I'm just getting into this, so I'm going to specialize in first-time home buyers. Like, what? So you're going to have someone that's new to the business teach someone that's never bought a home before how to buy a home, that might not even be a homeowner themselves. Like, It's crazy. But you just, what I took from that is Angie's commitment and resolve. And I think that's why, she started to rise relatively quickly, and there was no motivation initially for this to become a career. So it happened a lot more organically. And truthfully, I'm behind the scenes saying, go it alone. We don't need to be paying whatever to anybody else. Like, you're only going to help a friend. And then it really blossomed. So, I mean, I probably held her back early on where, we would likely be in a very different position business wise.
Right. Well, and I think it's also servant leadership. I mean, you're leading from the heart. You're, like you said, this is serious. This is somebody's largest investment. So there's a lot of money on the line. And if you're part-timer, you don't know what you're doing, you can lose a lot of money for somebody, so definitely that's extremely important. What would you say in your business, I guess, just starting out and then right now, is there one or two things or tools that you use that you find to be imperative that any agent, whether they're starting out or have been in the business for a while, needs?
I think that using social media is really important right now. The social media platform, it gives you social proof. It connects you to people. It connects you to people that people know, connects you to people that you should know, that you don't know. I really think that is a huge part of it. Video, getting on camera, letting people see who you are, because the reality is that not everybody is meant to work with everybody and get along with everybody, and that's okay.
Right.
It's hard for my high I personality type, but when people get to see you and know you and like you and trust you from a video, it just makes it a little bit more of a seamless relationship. And I mean, I'm, strongly, obviously, with my personality type and who I am, a relationship-based agent. Right. Relationships with my business partners, relationships with my affiliates, relationships with my customers. Like, it is, not a one and done for me. I become friends with these people, and it's important. That makes it even more important to me that they are well taken care of. So, right. Utilizing, obviously, the CRM you should use is the one that you use. CRMs are important. I'll be honest, I've got gold in mine that, needs to be ferreted out. That's kind of something I think that I could always do a better job of managing, but CRMs, social media, video, like, so important.
Extremely important. Definitely. Because people like to do business that they know, like, and trust. And even though they may not know you, seeing you on social media, they think they know you, and then they start to like you and they start to trust you when you have that presence on social media, which is huge, right, in our business right now. Because when I was starting out way back when, I don't know, I think it might have been MySpace. That was social media, and Google was Ask Jeeves. But so now we're able to.
I mean, we have way more ways to reach people now. It's a lot easier than when you started.
Knock, knock, knock. Exactly. Yes. Okay, so now I want to get into, because there's so many people out there that either want, like, they're in a career in 9 to 5, and they're like, you know what, I want to get into real estate, but I can't do it because I can't give up, my day job. Or they have a spouse that says, you know what, I want to jump in. I want to do this with you. I'm sick of being an employee and being wherever anybody else tells me where I have to be, So what was that deciding factor or moment when you decided to say, okay, let's bring Jeremy in on the team? And then what were some of the steps that you had to put in place? Like, I'm sure it wasn't just okay, yeah, I'm going to quit my job and do this. Like, you have to put a plan in place.
I mean, 100%. And I know Jeremy will jump in here. Like most things, right? It started on a whim and a conversation and I don't even remember the exact moment, but I do remember having a conversation where he just said, I'm kind of ready to not be on the road, 300 nights a year. And, it honestly was probably stemmed from him missing something of the kids, or missing a game, or missing a birthday, or I'm going to guess. And I just said, in my head, I remember being like, all right, well, let's figure that out. I'm sure it wasn't quite I'm sure with my, I'm sure it was a little more than that, but that's kind of how.
I don't remember going that way.
Exactly.
Not at all, actually.
I'm sure you don't.
No. So it definitely stemmed from that. So, like, Angie and I've had many conversations about, missing, you name it, first words, first steps, first birthdays, and then that continuing. I traveled on average probably 200 plus nights a year.
Wow.
In fact, I shared on social media recently my lifetime titanium status on Marriott, which doesn't account for the fact I was also diamond for many, many years concurrently with Hilton. So, after 20, 25 years on the road every single week, leaving Monday, coming home Thursday, Friday, sometimes Sunday to Friday, I wanted to wake up in the same zip code, as Angie and the kids, or the same time zone even would be a huge advantage. The companies that I worked for were largely based out of California. So I was often 3 hours behind. And as silly as it sounds, but when I'd get out of a meeting at 6 o'clock at night, it was 9 o'clock here on the East Coast. So the kids were already in bed or en route to bed, and it could go a week. And if I was there 2 weeks, it could go 2 weeks, aside from maybe the weekend that I might be able to even interact with them. And this largely predates, really cell phone and texting and all that. So it was kind of like being totally unplugged for a long time. So we had been having that conversation for quite some time, and I am probably more of a planner by nature. And so we started to think about, what are those steps? What has to happen? So we began to do goals. We shifted from just doing corporate goals to personal goals, family goals. We've since incorporated the kids when we do goal planning each year, which we think is important. We're trying to change their mindset. But we started thinking about, like, what does it take? What is the amount of income, that we need from Angie? How much do we have to save? How and when should I go get my licensing? Which, quite candidly, I did at 30,000 feet, for probably, I don't know, the better part of 3 or 4 months, just, a module at a time, doing the online training. I had my license way before we finally pulled the trigger and actually made the change. In fact, I think I renewed my license twice before it ever went active. So there was always these plans of, we're going to make this change. And then life just kind of has a way of getting, I don't want to say in the way, but we decided to to buy a house. And we're like, well, we need the W-2, so we'll go one more year. Well, then we didn't love the house. So then we decided to build our own house. And we're like, well, let's go one more year. Well, that one more year led to the company that I was with being like a rocket ship. And this played a big part. People talk about FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. For so long, people had asked me questions like, well, how could you leave a steady paycheck? How could you leave the benefits? Frankly, I had amazing benefits. How could you leave stock options and restricted stock rights? There was always these questions about how could you leave? And I was fortunate. I was in a pretty good position. We made great money. And we weren't really living off the real estate business at that time. So we had to, kind of build and scale that to a point that we felt more comfortable making the leap. And then we also had to put the plans in place. And for our plan, we said we're going to save enough to go 12 months in savings without, needing anything from the real estate business, to give us time to kind of go down before we went back up. And we were really fortunate. We didn't spend a bonus check of mine for almost probably 6 quarters. And that allowed us to put quite a bit into kind of a safety net in the brokerage account. It allowed us to have the confidence to then make the change. And if I have one regret, it's that I waited so long to do it, that we didn't go back sooner. I think that we would be in a profoundly different place had we made the jump 4 years sooner, when we first had the idea, excuse me, or when I first started going to get the licensing, as opposed to one more year. There's always going to be a reason for one more year.
Oh, yeah. And there's that old saying, the best time to have started was yesterday, and the next best time to start is today.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So,
and I mean, a lot of factors play into that. I mean, he also has a wife who has, like, the security is a big thing. So, I mean, we literally, I don't, more than one time we're having these conversations for months and months, reviewing what our monthly nut is, reviewing what kind of buffer we want, adding in money. I mean, we made an aggressive savings goal, and we were like, all right, we're going to get that in the savings, and then we're going to pull the trigger. We're just going to do it. We're just going to do it. And then, and then Jeremy would make President's Club, and we would have a, all expenses paid trip to Italy. So we're like, all right, well, we'll wait. We're going to take that one trip. And, and so we've, finally after COVID, where it was just insane for him, we were like, we just have to, because if you don't jump, you're never going to do it. So we just finally had to just say, we're going to do it. And it was scary. and we did it. And now
So one thing I want to
we
point
should have done
out,
it 4 years ago.
yeah,
Absolutely.
one thing I want to point out is with Jeremy working so much, and then we're going to get into what it's like, you know, as working as a team in roles and stuff like that. But, you know, basically for anybody that's out there listening, that is also a single mom. Not saying Angie was a single mom, but if you're traveling the way that you were traveling, she's home with 3 boys and selling real estate, you know?
Yeah.
And that was similar to me when I was in Miami. My husband was not always there. He was in Southwest Florida a lot. So it was like I was a single mom basically and selling real estate. So you make it work, right? You figure out what it is you need to do. You make your schedule around that. And yes, my kids were at daycare, and there were times I had to pay because I was a little after 6 picking them up. But but that's, you know, that's the hustle. So tell me what it was like once you moved, like you quit your job. Did you take a vacation, first of all, and say, I just need a break, or did you jump right in?
So you'll love this. So for forever, I have wanted to like drive across the country. And I thought, what better opportunity than now as I pivot from one career to my next career to finally do this. And while it felt immensely selfish, and if you think about the logic of I want to go from being on the road every day to being home to let me just take 2 weeks and drive across the country, it didn't really resonate well with Angie, if you can imagine. But she was supportive and was like gave me her blessing. Well, I'm also the type that like at that point I was ready to make the change, make the transition, and dive into real estate full time. Well, the 2 weeks morphed to let me just do like 3 or 4 days. I'll drive down to the Keys. Well, I left in September of 2020, the corporate job. It was during the peak of coronavirus. So I found like 3 hotels that were even willing to let me stay. The restaurants weren't open. There were no activities. So I think I made it a day and a half at one of the resorts in the Keys, and then I turned around and I drove home. So so that was kind of the hiatus, and then I was all in on real estate.
You had your fix.
Yeah. So I didn't get my fix. That's still on my goals to make the cross country drive. But so I got about a few days.
Now you have the freedom to do it.
That's right.
So what is it like working as a husband and wife team? Was it everything you thought it would be? That I'm sure it has,
so much more.
Oh, good. I love it.
Yes. So I will jump in. So, okay. I think Angie and we've been together a long time before we went into business together. I would say some strengths of ours is that we do communicate pretty well. I don't think being in business as a couple is for everyone, to be quite honest. We definitely had some growing pains as this became our sole income, effectively, and how we fed the family and built our dreams and the lifestyle that we want to live. And when I came in, I think one of the things that helped is the tenure that I had in corporate America allowed me a variety of different trainings and opportunities to assess strengths and DISC personality profiles. And because Angie was going through and utilizing a coach that was looking for similar things, we kind of knew where our strengths lied. And we are very different. I mean, we are the epitome of the opposites attract. So we quickly defined roles, that we each play in the business. One of the things I'd say that we had to learn relatively quickly is, and Angie will share this, I tend to ask a few questions. I'm very curious by nature.
Few is not an accurate description of what happens.
Would you say analytical? Would you say an analytical?
Way more than a few questions.
I'd say courageously curious maybe is the best way to say it. So, it sometimes would feel, especially for Angie, like I was questioning what she was doing or how she was doing it, when in a way I was probably trying to understand the why. And so I would say early on, there was a little more friction. As we matured in our business and matured in our roles, we understood that, having our own lanes and projects or the focus that we were on, it really helped create some separation. But there were some huge benefits. Like as Angie said a minute ago, that she would suggest anyone starting out today join a team. I would say the same thing. Well, I was in her corner saying, don't join a team. Let's keep all the money we can, put it back in the business. As it relates to understanding the business, preparing, becoming the best at it, really honing and practicing the craft, we have accelerated our learning so far beyond the average agent, because every transaction she or I are involved in, it's a multiplier. We talk through every transaction, the good, the bad, the ugly. What would we do different? Something might not even have gone wrong, and we talked about what if scenarios. So the fact that we have just so much conversation around every detail of every transaction, I think really accelerated, quite frankly, why our growth outpaced that of the market. And it was because we were intimately involved, well, not just with each other, but with every transaction. I mean, truly about the conversations of how do we do this and what do we do here, and negotiation. I mean, it didn't matter. There was so much dialogue around every transaction.
So I think one of the things that, I'm hearing a lot between the two of you, and this is so important in any business, is communication. You guys effectively communicate with each other, and that is really what, allows you guys to work so good together as a team, and also being a yin and yang, right? Being different, because if you're the same, a lot of times that just does not work. So what do you see the biggest obstacle being in the business? And then I also am just curious what your roles are. Do you have specific, you're focused on marketing, social media, Angie's focused on contract negotiation? Do you guys kind of take your clients, and what are the roles within the business?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we really kind of, set up lanes per, kind of our strengths. So Jeremy leads more of the listing effort, and I lead more of the buyer effort. But we crisscross. We're starting to get a lot of past customers, repeat and referral business. So obviously I've already got those relationships. So depending on the situation, sometimes we tag team it. But we really kind of do try to stay in those lanes. He kind of spearheads the technology effort a little more. I do more of the community-based. I'm, very relationship with my roles in Women's Council and on the board and other things. I give a lot of time and effort and energy there. So we do try to kind of, I don't know, I guess not have so much overlap,
right?
That it makes sense that we're maximizing both of our sets of time, and still meeting our goals as far as being an organization that it's important to be involved in the community. It's important to give back. We give back portion of all of our stuff. We're involved in charities outside of even just the board and Women's Council. And, so we have a lot of crossover, but we do try to stay in our own lanes.
Right. And, first of all, your marketing is phenomenal. I just have to say, who does the marketing? Do you outsource it? And who else is on your team? Jeremy,
you go, or do you want me to go?
Well, marketing is really Ange, so I'm going to let you.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, right now we that's not really something that we outsource too much. Obviously we've got really strong photographers on our team to help with that. Jeremy handles a lot of our technology stuff, as far as YouTube goes, and the technology side of that, which is a really important piece, that back end. So we do work with the transaction coordinator on our team, and then we have a coach on our team. And I would say that the biggest obstacle for us right now is taking that next step, which is really more leverage. Being willing to let go a little bit of the control.
Yes.
Which is a struggle for both of us, if I can speak to that for you too. But and just being willing to just let it fly, and I know you've been going through that the last couple of years, and we've been talking about it, and now it's time to do it. Both of us are kind of saying our word for 2023 is going to be leverage, and how to continue to push leverage, and that probably means getting some additional support,
right,
in different ways.
Yeah. So I mean, just to maybe build off of that a little bit. So I think everything Angie said is right in the sense that we really tried to create some clear roles and some definition around what that looks like for us. We absolutely back each other up, and that's been a huge benefit. When you think about if you're a single agent out in the market by yourself, running autonomously, not part of a team, there are times where it's really difficult because if you get double booked, customers are only so loyal. They're loyal to their calendar. And in a market like ours, where many people are coming in, to look at, Angie got a call this morning, hey, can you be here at 11 o'clock to help us price up this home? Like that stuff happens. And she's able to do that oftentimes because I can step in or vice versa.
Right.
So, for us, leverage is going to be critical for this year. To her point, we gave someone a gift. Actually, it was our coach this year, a mug that said, I'm not a control freak, but you're doing it wrong. I think that epitomizes our approach. And honestly, like, we have pretty demanding standards, but it's also why we think that our growth has outpaced the market tremendously. Everybody had a great past few years. We were percentage wise so far beyond what the average agent grew. And it wasn't just because average selling prices were up. It was because we were doing some things differently. So we have I would say demanding standards, maybe is a good way to say it. And in a way that's probably holding us back. So this year, as we look at, what are the things that we have to focus on, it really will be about adding leverage to the organization. So having our transaction coordinator is a huge help. Having a licensed admin is probably the next hire. We talked about YouTube and some of the video that we do on social media. Like, we will be getting an editor. It's not a good use of my time to learn how to edit videos. But when I didn't have a ton of customers, I leaned into it. So it was a practice that I kind of figured out that has helped our business grow. But it's something that I now need to turn over. And quite frankly, we know that the quality will actually improve. So, we're now looking at things like we're recording some of our standards and how we go about doing things, such that when we bring in an assistant or different pieces of leverage, that training will be in place. So it becomes a little more turnkey.
Exactly.
We are going to focus this year on scale, and scale may not be reflected in revenue. We recognize that we're going to put a lot of effort as the market shifts a little bit into putting a better foundation in place under our business, because we had a great year last year, probably better than we would have ever have predicted. But now we're going to make investments when other people are starting to pull back, so that as this market shifts and then reshifts, we are going to be positioned to launch when other people are going to be positioned to get out of the business.
And having those standard operating procedures and recording what you do, so that way people that come in, it's going to be a lot easier, to tell them, but then say, hey, here, watch a video. This is how we do this. This is how we handle that. And then also having your core values for your team and making sure that you're hiring based on your core values, which is really important. There's a lot of people on my team that if I had my core values, before I hired them, I would have never hired them because they did not align. Right. Yeah. So, making sure you have that's huge. So 2 more things before we go. Number one, and I know that I have this issue with because my husband and I have been together since 2002, and we've been in real estate and mortgage ever since. So when we go out, let's just say on date night, it's business talk always. So
sounds like a great date.
I know, right? We talk about business all the time, and it's hard. It's hard not to when it consumes you and becomes your life. And also, quite frankly, when it doesn't feel like work, right? And when you love what you do, it doesn't really feel like business. But I do notice that a lot of our conversations go to that. So on your date nights, do you have something or is it the same where you're finding yourself talking a lot about business?
So it is the same. And we both have said that in 2023, first, we're going to do better of having a dedicated date night. We just kind of roll with it. It's not that we don't do it. We just don't really, it's not a priority, I would say. And we definitely talk about business a lot. And, Jeremy, you know him. So he is 100 million% a visionary. In his mind, is just, it never stops.
Same.
And I have, there are times where I'll just say to him, I just can't right now. And that's hard for me, but sometimes I just have to say to him, I just can't. You're going to have to just table that, and I'll be ready to go tomorrow, because sometimes my mind process is very different than his, and he's just constantly going, and he has all these great ideas. And so, it's been a couple of years now that we've been working together, and I've gotten better at being comfortable doing that. I'm not shutting him down. I'm not willing to not listen to his ideas. I'm just saying,
you're blocking my best ideas, Danielle.
I'm not, exactly. I'm just saying, I'm not prepared to handle that conversation right in this moment.
Have you read
And
the book
to your
Rocket
point,
Fuel?
we probably need to make a no business on date night, but it's hard, and
It is
we
hard.
do love what we do, and we know that we can just keep getting better, and that's a time for us to we're kind of outside of our office. So
Right.
It's like, sometimes it's freeing and more ideas flow when you're in a different setting than normal. So we are definitely guilty of the same thing, Danielle. And while we say we're going to do better,
hey,
I got no complaints about our 2022. So,
So have you read the book Rocket Fuel?
Yes.
Okay, so
I read the
you're the
first chapter.
integrator. It sounds
I'm
like
the integrator. He's the visionary.
and that's
Yeah.
another reason why it works so well. And my husband is the same. I mean, I'll go to him at 10 o'clock at night with like da 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 da, and he's like, "I need to sleep tonight. If you, don't talk to me about this until tomorrow, because I can think about all this stuff and then go right to bed. It doesn't bother me. It's still going on. I mean, I'll wake up in the middle of the night and be like, or have solutions to my problems in the morning because
That's
it
right.
consciously came to me. So before we jump off, I have to ask, anyone that has been in real estate, even for a little bit of time, has always had like something funny, crazy, that has happened to them. What is the wildest, craziest, most eye-opening thing that has ever happened to you? Being in this profession.
So, it's interesting because it's like, I know there's been things, and I think like, what are some of the things? The one that really stands out to me the most, and it was earlier in my career. So again, these are lessons that we learn and that Jeremy has had the benefit of learning from me. People always want to use the bathroom when you're showing property, right? And it's like, they'll say, "Can I use the bathroom?" And I'm like, can it wait till we get to the clubhouse? Sometimes it just can't wait. So I was showing a property, and I had someone who just goes running into the bathroom, and I'm like, oh gosh. And then they come out, and of course, you know what they tell me? The toilet didn't flush. And I'm like, awesome. So the water was, of course, turned off. Thank goodness they didn't go number 2. But literally, I had to call the agent and get permission to go back, because I had to go to the grocery store and I had to buy jugs of water to be able to flush the toilet.
Oh my gosh.
So that's kind of one of those things that only happens to you once. So now when someone goes running, I'm like, don't you go to that bathroom unless you've turned on the water.
Oh my gosh. That's funny. Yeah, no, always. There's always some crazy story. And a lot of times agents don't realize like we've all been there.
100%.
Yeah.
So even I've been in 2 years now, full time or just over. And I've had similar experiences. Like we had a seller that he put it a nice way, but he said his cat would eat too fast and would regurgitate its food, which we all know what that means. So before every listing I would have to go in and like walk the house, make sure, because he was gone, make sure that it was show ready. But I think something that I've observed, and it's maybe less funny, is more the industry. So I left medical device sales, selling to the 60 largest health systems in the US, government accounts, corporate accounts, a very professional sales environment. And it has baffled me at times, the level of professionalism and aptitude in
or lack thereof.
Or lack thereof. Yeah, honestly. And yet it gives me such optimism and hope and understanding in a way as to why our business has grown the way that it has, because the standards that we bring to it, the standards that we honor and how we work every day, doing what we say we're going to do, But the thing that has stood out, that is eye-opening, is we have had multiple customers come to us, one just this week, that said, I'm here because another agent didn't call me back, or I called 2 other agents and they couldn't call me back. And I just think in a business where the cost of acquiring a new customer or a lead is so significant, or can be, how in the world do other agents just not call back? So I think just getting up and doing what we say we're going to do, answering our phone, is like that alone is the secret in this business. Just answer your phone. You'll probably find more than you think.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I love it. Well, thank you both so much. I know that you're both busy. I really, really, really appreciate it. There's so many good tips and like tidbits in this session. So I appreciate you guys being here. You guys are amazing. In 6 short years, I mean, you've literally gone from, stay-at-home mom to Angie crushing it, to quitting your day job, and now you're both crushing it. So you guys are great. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us, and we value your partnership as well.
Yeah.
And, we look forward. This is going to be a year of it's going to be a good year for us. More to come.
It's going to be an amazing year. Your best year yet, definitely.
Right.
So
We're looking forward to it, and we appreciate you, Danielle. Thanks for giving us the opportunity.
yes, thank you so much. Well, that's a wrap. I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Real Estate Secrets Unlocked. Don't forget to subscribe to our show on your favorite platform, and we would love your feedback. Check us out on social and let me know what topics you want more of. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel and our show. I'm your host, Danielle Damianov, and until next time, stay motivated, stay excited, and keep growing in this crazy world of real estate. Thanks for listening to Real Estate Secrets Unlocked.